Radio Play Comics is meant to adapt the stories, mostly, of great unadapted, old and forgotten comics from the past. I use voice acting and narration to abridge the work as much as possible without lessening its impact, and to bring these stories to life the best way I can. Please enjoy. Hi, I'm Nick, and welcome to the Fusion Space for today's episode of Radio Play Comics, Before Watchmen, Rorschach. Before Watchmen was a series of prequel comics to the original Watchmen, further developing its characters and revealing a bit more of the world's history, and their own. Nothing here is meant to change or break the canon set by Watchmen, only to fill in some of the many blank spots in ways that feel congruous with the main book. There is no overarching narrative, and the books only tie into each other in small ways, so any can be enjoyed on their own. I'll be adapting them all eventually, spaced out with my other long-running series, and in this order most likely, ordered as they begin chronologically. Minutemen tells the story of the origin of superheroes in this world and the first team who operated in the 1940s, their rise and fall, and the secret dark history behind the happy public face of their story. Ozymandias is a chilling portrait of a villain in the making, and his is a series of heartbreaks given to him by the world, hardening his heart while sharpening his mind. It's a grim road he walks, but he is also undoubtedly the most effective hero of his time. Comedians is another walk into darkness as we see him through the 60s, through Vietnam, and through conflicts at home, while Dr. Manhattan's view is of the universe itself and the largest scale as he mucks with quantum physics and time. Night Owl shows his origins and the team of himself and Rorschach in action in their early days, while Rorschach's book focuses on his time alone in the 70s, and one brief window of his life, as does Silk Spectre's but in the 60s and her youth, while Dollar Bill and Moloch both tell their life stories. So you can see there's a wide range of styles of story being told, and in a great variety of ways. Rorschach is perhaps my favorite of the Watchmen characters, and I've studied his path through the main book the most for a brief pair of videos I did to settle arguments I kept having online about whether or not he is the hero of the story, and I feel I provided sufficient proof and counter-arguments in those to definitively say that he is. I urge you to watch them if you have any questions on that matter yourself. As such, I'm not approaching this book from a standpoint of even questioning his morals or his character. Rather, I aim to inform you, the audience, of that character most strongly by example in my performance. I've done Rorschach before as he appears in Night Owl's book, but those are different times, and this is a man closer to the vigilante we see in the main book. It shows us how Rorschach lived and operated on his own after all official public support and all of his friends who were doing the same thing had gone away. The Night Owl book presages the ending of their partnership and does inform Rorschach's character as well, even delving into his history and childhood a bit, whereas this book remains firmly focused on the present moment and his 70s incarnation. So I do recommend it as a primer, but it should not be considered a prequel to this story, and there is no direct connection beyond the man himself being the subject. Rorschach's solo book aims to show how he weathers the storms of the times, how he can go on doing what he does despite his flaws and imperfections and the whims of chance, by showing us this one brief window of his everyday life, nothing in the story being that notable or special. It shows us how he soldiered on through all his long years alone. Brian Azzarello is a writer known for the style, and Lee Bermejo is one of the best modern artists I've ever seen for gritty realism, and the art fits the tone of the story perfectly. It captures Rorschach's unique perspective of the world around him and presents him in the right mindset, not one of passionate vengeance, but more so grim determination. Resignation at the state of the world becoming resolved to stem the loss of goodness to evil. The time is July of 1977, the infamous Summer of Sam, when in the real world serial killer David Berkowitz terrorized New York City and taunted the police with his cryptic messages, and in this story something similar occurs that may be intended as a parallel or even a copycat, as the Bard operates in Rorschach's town, leaving a string of murdered women with messages carved into their flesh. At the same time, Rorschach must deal with a local crime boss who has targeted the vigilante, and we get to see Rorschach handle a small operation single-handedly in a realistic fashion, giving us a view of his tactics along with the run of his thoughts and emotions. Along the way, we also see one thing not presented anywhere else in the Watchmen universe, the closest thing Walter Kovacs may have ever had to a relationship, as he befriends a waitress at a diner he frequents, in an attempt to thank her for caring for his injuries. However, if you're expecting anything like a happy ending out of that story, you're in for a harsh lesson in why the lifestyle Rorschach lives barely allows for friends in the same line of work, and may have no room at all for civilians. Brian Azzarello also wrote the Comedian series, and they differ greatly, in that Edward Blake's story included almost no internal narration giving us his thoughts, and left us to judge the man by his words and actions instead, while this strongly features Rorschach's journal as its main narrative source. But they are very similar in one respect, and that is that in this story, it is the world we are left to judge on its own terms. Brian doesn't go much into what pattern, if any, all these events add up to in the end. What it all means. That's something he and I will be leaving you to judge for yourselves, as I think is only appropriate for this particular character. Rorschach defines himself as truly becoming himself once he saw that the universe was morally blank, and was then free to scrawl his own design, to define for himself what was right and wrong, and to have full confidence that no greater authority on the matter could possibly exist. Is that insane? Perhaps. I'm certainly in no position to say. Perhaps it's just what it means to truly have conviction, though. In any case, these are thoughts I believe the story is meant to encourage in you, the audience, so my opinion would be meaningless anyway. So, with that being the case, let's just get on with the show. Blood seeps out of a person's skin, forming patterns, should one choose to see them. They are the result of a scalpel drawing lines, which form intentional patterns, those being letters. A gloved hand holds the scalpel as it scars a message. A woman's body lies on a metal table as a man finishes his final inscription in her flesh. On the backsides of her arm, leg, and torso he has written the phrases, "I can't help myself, but I don't need to. I can't see myself, but neither can you. Damn town." The city of New York is a sea of electric light filling the canyons between the buildings, partly obscured by clouds of rising steam as seen from high above. Rorschach's Journal, July 1st, 1977. I hate this place. Have since I was a child. My mother, may she rot in hell, called it the greatest city on earth. One New Year's Eve she took me out on the fire escape and told me that I was lucky to live here, and that I owed her that. It was one of the few times she ever smiled at me. Then she was called back to bed by one of my uncles. I stayed outside in my pajamas, holding on to the cold metal rail. The snow fell. My fingers turned blue, and my toes purple, then black, as the sun rose. She wasn't smiling in the emergency room. She was spitting, cursing, asking me, "Why do you always have to ruin everything? What made you this way?" I looked her in the eye and said, "You did. You did and do." A lady of the evening wipes her mouth as she pockets her fee, leaving a satisfied customer to zip up in the alley behind her. All of you, walking these streets, avoiding eye contact, heads down, in perfect pose for the blade of the executioner that stalks you. Well, he's just behind you. She crosses a busy street filled with the nightlife of the city's red light district, where taxicabs and grindhouse theaters abound. And crossing the street, and around every corner, she purchases her own form of solace from a dealer outside an adult theater. Yes, you all fear me, but I am not him. Then moves along as he heads inside. No, I am the lonely man who stalks the executioner. Inside, he prepares to watch a porno film within a private booth.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go away, man. It's occupied.
I can be so clumsy.
The man ties off his arm, preparing it for injection.
Oh my! Let me help you with that.
You deaf? I said. He rises and turns to the door, pulling up his pants as he does. Look, mother! When the door is kicked in, Rorschach stands in the doorway. Bitch to be you right now. Dwayne Carter, street hustler, fake gold chains, 2 paper joints. He grabs Dwayne by the neck. Serious smack. Say what, clown? Rorschach's fist smacks him in the face. I'm serious. He bends Dwayne's arm behind his back and breaks his elbow. Tell me where the shit is.
The sewer.
Wasting time with the arm. Moving on to the back.
No, I ain't playing. The supply. It's kept in the tunnel. In the sewers.
Location?
Hell if I know. I just deal. Gotta be close though. I work the square. And if I run out, well, it ain't for long. Like 2 seconds.
Can you feel your hand? Where it is?
Touching my ass?
If it turns out you've lied to me, I'll be back. Shove it up it. Rorschach leaves the store as both clerk and clientele shrink away from him. Dwayne Carter, a piece of trash. He means nothing. The polluter, though, the one who litters the street with him, he means to me. He searches the rat-filled sewers, armed with a flashlight. July 6th, 1977. I've spent days wading through garbage, looking for shit. A prospector in hell, digging for the mother lode, tirelessly. Haven't slept. Can't afford to. This stream is mine. It will make me rich. Finally, Rorschach finds 2 somewhat scrawny men in gang vests matching Dwayne's, shooting dice by a doorway. Eureka! I found it.
17.
He creeps silently behind them and picks up their shotgun lying against the wall.
Jesus, every time. I know, bro.
Just as the men take notice.
No.
Rorschach swings it, clobbering one of the guards with the gun butt. He catches the other with his backswing. Preparing to torch the drug stash, he drops the gun and pulls a Molotov cocktail from his coat. He lights it before opening the door. The mother lode turned out to be fool's gold. Rorschach is greeted by a fist from within, knocking him on his back as he drops the bottle. He springs back up, but is kicked over as 4 muscular thugs emerge with blunt weapons. Rorschach catches himself with one hand as they close in. He rises into a haymaker, knocking one punk out of his hat. A big guy slams a big stick into his back, and Rorschach goes down. He reaches out and grabs the guard's shotgun, aiming it as he rolls over. Rorschach is kicked in the face. A man with a heavily scarred face walks into his view, flanked by more thugs, all seen upside down in Rorschach's new perspective. Crime fighter, right? That's what you are? Well, it's nice to finally meet you. I'm crime. Bird, big cool. The henchmen pick Rorschach up to face their boss. Rorschach. For some reason, I thought. He leans down close to the masked man. Dude, you don't measure up to your myth. I mean, what the hell? I cooked up this elaborate scheme just to take you down? What was I thinking? Big bad Rorschach. Well, bad anyway. Frankly, I'm disappointed in myself that I stooped to your level. One begins to remove his mask. No, Lucky Pierre. You know what's under that mask? Nothing that matters. In this case, the mask makes the corpse. Rorschach is held down and beaten to a pulp by the gang of men. And the front page. They leave him for dead. The scarred woman's body is found in a dumpster by the police, and a crime scene is established. A reporter asks if it's the Bard again, a nickname for Shakespeare applied to the killer because of the writing. The cops don't want to answer, but the crowds of onlookers can see for themselves that the prominent serial killer has indeed struck again. The crime boss Rawhead drives around town in a flashy car with his men to celebrate. Oh, York.
All rules, brothers. This town belongs to us now.
After they pass by, Rorschach drags his beaten body out of a manhole cover in the street. He stumbles to a drugstore and picks the lock to get in. Behind the counter, he eats some painkillers and gets medical supplies to tend to his injuries.
Nobody's safe anymore. We're living in a jungle surrounded by wild savages.
What's that supposed to mean?
You know. Don't pretend you... Ding.
Walter Kovacs enters the Gunga diner. Jesus, buddy.
What happened?
I got mugged last night.
He sits at the counter by a blonde waitress. A guy like you?
See what I mean?
Walter opens a newspaper.
The bard murdered another woman.
Yeah, what's this world coming to?
Its end.
No offense, but if I was gonna mug somebody...
It wouldn't be me.
Exactly. No offense.
The muggers. They made a mistake.
Meaning you didn't have anything on you?
No. Meaning, I'm not dead.
Continued. Walter sees his blood forming a pattern on the diner's counter over his reflection when the waitress puts a plate of sausage, eggs, and toast down.
So how'd you like a real nutritional breakfast instead of 2 chili dogs? And don't worry, I'm just gonna charge you for your usual. It'll be our little...
Walter's blood drips onto the eggs.
Oh,
She holds a napkin to his face.
you know, you've been coming.
Before you started working here.
I wait on you almost every day, but I don't know your name.
He sees the concern in her eyes,
Meh.
then briskly gathers his hat and leaves the diner. Two of the thugs who jumped Rorschach are selling their wares on the street.
Smack, smoke, gold chains.
Gold chains.
Rorschach's Journal, July 7th, 1977. Times Square. Neon romanticizes its filth. Light of day makes its darkness worse. More brazen. Arrogant.
They proposition a woman with a child in a stroller.
Hopeless. Look at me. You can't stop me.
A truck idles across the road as the driver unloads magazines.
Look at me. You can't see my face. Underestimated gang that tried to murder me. Boss called himself Crime. Goes by Rawhead. Real name unknown.
Rorschach, disguised as Walter Kovacs, crosses the street to the truck, walking right past the men as they seek new business.
Name doesn't matter. Only face does. All their smiling faces.
Suddenly the truck drives towards the thugs.
Targets.
One leaps out of the way as it smashes into a building. The other calls for help from within a pile of rubble.
What the fuck? Tyson, get this thing off of me!
Tyson aims his gun inside the cab,
You been drinking, you stupid son of a...
but finds only Rorschach's calling card on the seat.
Huh?
Hurry your ass!
Jesus Christ! He looks around at the crowd of onlookers in fear, realizing that without the mask, the vigilante could be anyone. Damn, mister. You okay?
Where are you, motherfucker?
A flaming bottle rolls forward from the crowd.
Ah! Fuck! Tyson!
It smashes against the trapped thug, and he bursts into flames.
Get me out of... Ah!
Rorschach heals up in his apartment while he types his journal entry.
Undeniable fact everyone denies is that at its heart, the world is a cold place. It doesn't care whether you live or die, or how you live, or how you die. To the world, you don't matter. You don't matter to the person sitting next to you. They won't give their life for you. They shouldn't. Accepting this truth was liberating. Gave me clarity. Gave me a mission.
His walls are lined with news stories of terrible crimes.
I understand there are two kinds of people in this world. Victims and me.
He opens his fridge and finds it empty. While relaxing with his men and pet tiger, Rawhead examines the Rorschach card in his nightclub lair.
He's alive.
Goddamn right he is. It's fucking Rorschach, man. Fucking
Bull, man. We beat the living shit out of him and left him to die in the sewers.
Well, he ain't dead.
The tiger yawns.
You saw him, but he's still alive.
I don't know who I saw. Maybe if you would have taken his mask off. Right. I mean, if we would have took his mask off. Look, there was a crowd. What was I supposed to do?
This.
Rawhead takes the gun from Tyson's waistband and fires it all around him.
Tyson, all the times I pulled your shit out of the fire in Nam, I did 'cause I figured you'd figure it out. We survived the war. We know how to fight one. Why'd you have to prove me wrong?
He shoots Tyson in the head.
Rorschach. Must be some VC in that runty motherfucker. So, we gotta kill him again. Only this time, brothers.
The tiger stalks forward to devour the man who has become only meat.
We leave him in pieces.
The fry cook grills hamburger for the clients of the Gunga diner.
So I tell her, I say, no way my lady's gotta work when she's pregnant. Your ass is quitting tomorrow. And she gets all, I need a job. And I'm like, what do you think welfare is?
When Walter stumbles in.
A crime.
What? Whoa. Hey man, you can't be coming in here looking like that.
No food at home. Need some.
No way, no way. You gotta go. Like, to a hospital.
No. Food.
The blonde waitress takes him by the arm.
I'll put him in the back booth, Conrad.
But I sit at the counter.
Tonight, you sit here.
I ain't taking no responsibility for this.
Fine, if the boss comes in, I'll go on welfare. Here's some water.
The waitress drops his glass of water as Walter coughs up blood. He collapses in the booth. His blood forms a familiar pattern on the counter. Rorschach wakes up in a hospital hooked to an IV.
July.
He pulls it free and checks his chart.
10th, 1977. Survived 3 days in Bellevue emergency room.
Out of the way, man. Doctors rush by with a gurney.
Hey, Dwayne, we got an empty bed here. Come get it.
And he sees that the space he leaves will quickly be filled in the busy corridor.
This place is misery. Come here often. Reminds me I'm at war.
He takes some painkillers and bandages from a well-stocked back room.
Overcrowded. Understaffed. Pick up some supplies. No one notices me.
Was admitted 3 days ago.
And sees the blonde waitress at the nurse's station as he leaves.
No one.
She looks around, but Rorschach slips away before she can see him.
Huh?
Ever. City is rotting. Garbage and decay pile higher, becoming our homes. Monuments to the corruption of those in powerful positions.
A stray dog argues with some alley rats over who has the rights to a bag of garbage.
Citizens too distracted to notice this horror.
They argue their points louder, until a man throws a bottle at them, and they all scatter.
Authorities benefit keeping us that way.
The dog saunters along the street, looking for an easier meal.
Case in point, the serial killer, the Bard, named such to make him mythic.
It passes by the two police detectives who are handing out wanted photographs to be taped up in store windows.
To make him feared. To control. People happy being controlled. Being dominated. Handing over the knife. The responsibility.
As they leave, a frightened woman crosses the street, all of them knowing that she might become the bard's next victim.
But when it's used against them, do they get what they deserve?
Still, a girl has to make a living, and she makes her way to the Rio Hotel, where inside by its neon sign, another of Rawhead's foot soldiers is seeking out his own easy meal as he counts the girl's money.
Not good, baby, not good.
I swears, Joe, that's all of it. It's been a slow night.
Yeah, about that. It's like, tell me if I'm wrong, but you've been having a slow day about once a week.
He pulls her up to stand next to him.
I don't know what to say.
Joe grips her by the neck.
Try. I'm not holding out on you, Joe.
A tear spills from her eye.
Oh,
Joe breaks a glass bottle. Downstairs, Rorschach enters the Rio Hotel in costume. The desk clerk shrinks behind the counter as he passes by and heads up the stairs.
See, if you're light, then I'm light. And that ain't right. It's not about me, baby. It's Rawhead, understand? I work for him. He gets a cut of what we make. So if I thought you were taking a cut from me, well...
Her expression changes to shock upon seeing Rorschach enter.
I'd have to cut back, you dig?
Joe brings the broken bottle near the girl's face.
Then all you'd have would be slow, lonely nights.
Rorschach creeps up silently behind him.
For the rest of your life.
Huh?
Rorschach ducks Joe's wild backswing with the bottle. From a squat, he explodes back out with a front kick to Joe's crotch, knocking the big man off his feet. The girl runs out, screaming. And the last thing Joe sees is Rorschach's foot coming down, before he loses consciousness.
Joe. Joe.
Joe awakens to find himself duct taped to a chair and the broken bottle taped into his hand.
You're back. Huh? Joe Bird. Pimp. Pusher. Dishonorably discharged from the military in '69. In and out of prison since. Dull scum. Uninteresting. Not why I'm here.
Meanwhile, the girl has reached a pool hall and she tells one of Rawhead's men what has happened.
After a bigger fish. Rawhead. Where?
Joe's only response is to spit on Rorschach's shoe. He takes Joe's hand and stabs the broken glass into his crotch. Rorschach picks up a large chunk of glass.
No? Tight-lipped? Understood.
He pinches Joe's nose shut.
Maybe I can loosen your tongue.
When he opens it to breathe, Rorschach shoves the glass into Joe's mouth. He punches Joe in the face, making the glass tear through his other cheek. Joe spits out blood and grunts.
Go to hell.
As three of Rawhead's armed henchmen rush up the Hotel Rio's stairs.
I plan to, once you give me the directions.
Continued. The lead thug kicks in the door to Joe's room and finds Rorschach ready with a tear gas grenade. He pulls the pin and hurls it into the doorway.
Jesus!
Rorschach grabs the cash off the dresser and shoves Joe's chair over as he turns to the window. He dives through the glass onto the fire escape. The men cross to the window as gas fills the room.
Get me out of there. Hang on, brother.
And one fires his Uzi out of it. He hits nothing but metal, though, and sees the empty ladder going down. The thug sticks his head out to investigate.
Huh?
Rorschach swings from the level above and kicks him in the face. Another leans out and fires his handgun, narrowly missing Rorschach as he jumps away from the building and catches the edge of the hotel's neon sign. One of its anchors is wrenched free from the brickwork as he swings around it. The sign comes completely off the building, and Rorschach falls to the street below, just ahead of it. He rolls the instant he touches the ground, barely dodging the crushing weight of metal and neon. Rorschach rolls into the street and dashes into a nearby taxicab.
Go.
Where?
Just go.
Got it. I'll get you out of here. Don't worry. There still are some good people in this world. The taxi driver performs his duty. Trouble back there? I said, trouble back there? Outside the car windows, people commingle and squabble as usual. It looked like you had some trouble back there. Rorschach looks behind them.
May still have some with me.
How could you not? There's trouble everywhere. I see it. I'm not like you, though. Takes some real guts to be a guy like you. You're probably not married, huh? I mean, a wife would get in the way. No offense if you are married, though.
Here.
The taxi stops and Rorschach gets out. Here's your note. Outlawing you guys? Bad idea. I think so anyway. I really do. I mean, look at this place. Look at this place. It's a shame what we've let it become. Another woman's body is found in the street, engraved with messages by the bard reading, "I'm not a monster. Innocent, a child. Your future reflected. Growing up too soon." Some kids marvel over it before the police arrive. And at the Gunga Diner. Hey, look who it is. Walter enters and approaches the blonde waitress. Casper the unfriendly ghost.
My name is Walter, and I didn't need to go to the hospital.
What?
Thank you, though. I know you meant well.
I was worried. How did you get out?
It's not a prison. It's a hospital. They can't keep you against your will. I'd like to take you to dinner.
Let's see. Tonight we got meatloaf.
Shut up, Conrad.
To thank you, can I take you to dinner? Anywhere you'd like. It doesn't have to be a place I like. I want to thank you.
Queen Nancy has very expensive taste.
Shut up, Conrad.
Walter pulls out a fistful of bills.
I have money. We can...
You don't have to show me that. Walter, huh? You look like a Walter. Walter, I don't get off until 11 tonight.
I understand.
He turns to leave.
Dessert? Can we go get some pie and maybe talk?
Is that enough to thank you?
Pick me up here at 11.
Rorschach's Journal, July 11th, 1977. News of the bard's latest victim broke at 4:30. Just in time for a late afternoon thunderstorm. Certain he took pleasure in the coincidence.
Crowds of people surround Walter as he walks the streets in the afternoon rain.
His confidence must be high. Only explanation for another victim so soon. Believes he can't be caught. Puts the city on edge. Had to be his intention. Razor no longer his only weapon. Playing the public's insecurities like a piano.
And at the Paradise Inferno nightclub, Rorschach's own methods have forced Rawhead's anxieties to the same place, and he has gathered his remaining men.
So now he's gonna pick us off, one by one? The fuck he is! I want every man we got out on the street. Get that fucking runt!
Rawhead, man, you're asking us to find a needle in a haystack of needles. We don't know who he is.
But he knows who we are, right?
Yeah, that's our advantage.
Say what?
Our advantage.
Exactly, Lucky P. So we give him what he wants.
Dressed as Walter, Rorschach waits on a doorstop, blending in as a vagrant.
No lead on Rawhead's location. No matter. Found whore. Put pimp in hospital last night. She's working. Making money. Rawhead's money. As expected, greed got the better of him. Not expected, him being alone.
He watches Rawhead collect from his girls, and considers putting on his mask. Hey.
Too easy. Arrogant fool.
Rawhead returns to his club, the Paradise Inferno, and Walter heads for the diner.
Nightclub will be opening soon. We'll return later, after 11 o'clock appointment. Clean up mess.
After passing 2 women, he is accosted by a pair of men.
Hey, asshole! What are you looking at? You were looking at our ladies, weren't you? Maybe he wants to carve 'em up.
One puts a hand on Walter's chest.
I'm not who you think I am.
Yeah? Who do you think I think you are? He sounds guilty, Tony.
Rorschach grabs the man's hand and bends his finger back.
I'm not who...
Just then, the lights go out.
Pushed to the edge. The city has quit.
A blackout has covered the city in darkness.
Paranoia will turn to panic or terror-induced immobilization.
Rorschach takes off down the street towards the club.
An opportunity to put my efficient process in motion.
Rorschach puts on his real face. Rorschach picks the lock on the back door of the Paradise Inferno and enters the nightclub's storeroom. He finds the tiger locked in its cage. In the main room, Rawhead hears a loud noise.
Stay cool. Keep to the plan.
And his men assemble by the door. The tiger leaps through the doorway and pounces on one of the gunmen. The others open fire as Rorschach emerges from the back room with the tiger's lock and chain. He swings it, clubbing another of the thugs in the head. He ducks behind him to avoid the incoming gunfire, then grabs his gun to return it. Rawhead puts his hands up as the tiger chases after the last henchman.
You win, crime fighter. I surrender. That's not how I work.
He puts up his middle fingers.
Hey, me neither.
As Lucky P flies at Rorschach from hiding with a jump kick. And outside the Gunga diner, Nancy waits for Walter to pick her up for their date. Excuse me.
What?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean...
Oh, that's okay. I didn't know it was you.
You're waiting for someone?
It's that obvious?
You're standing alone in the middle of a blackout, so... yeah, it is. He's probably not coming. I mean, he probably can't get here. Maybe I should walk you home. The diner patron, whom Nancy recognizes, holds out his hand. To be concluded. The jump kick catches Rorschach in the head. Lucky P ducks his counterpunch and rises into an uppercut. He slams his elbow into Rorschach's chin and follows with a roundhouse kick, knocking him down. Rawhead dances to the music of blows hitting Rorschach as more punches and kicks land.
I got the moves. Yeah, I got the shit. Oh no, I got it all in spades. I'm the ace of kings with a diamond ring on my ding-a-ling.
Finally, Rorschach lies on the floor, beaten.
Check it, Lucky P. Just like I said. Motherfucker's nobody.
Rawhead pulls off his mask.
No. Without his mask.
And puts it on himself.
Jesus. This face is nasty. How you live with this? Or that one? Let me give you another, brother.
Rawhead punches Rorschach on the floor, knocking him out. Meanwhile, the diner customer walks Nancy the waitress home. I know you're scared. You shouldn't be.
How can you say that? Look what's going on here.
He strokes her cheek. It'll be over soon. The lights will come on, and they'll see their reflection. He grips her collar and leans in close.
But that's not gonna change.
He unsheathes a razor blade. You're right. Dead eyes only see a dead face. Rorschach awakens with his wrist tied to two bedposts and Rawhead atop him, taunting him in his own mask.
I'm really angry, and you're a bad guy.
I don't get this, Rawhead.
No, Lucky Pete. Don't call me that. Call me Rorschach. Mr. Rorschach. Mr. Tall-ass looking like a real motherfucking superhero Rorschach.
Lucky P looks out the window.
What you ain't getting?
Humanity. It's a blackout. People ain't people. They're every man for themselves. Something wrong about that.
You're bothered. I understand. What if I went out there as Mr. Whatever I said, Rorschach, cracked some motherfucking heads, killed some people, and brought some peace?
That'd be fucking something.
Yeah, it would. Finish off, Mr. Nobody. You know something, Nobody? I get this. The mask thing. I get it. It's what separates you from the motherfuckers. My face. My lack of fuck. I became what I am. Back from Nam. I chose to live up to my face. But with a mask, I look like everybody underneath it.
Lucky P takes out a pair of clippers.
That's cool. I'ma do it. So you do what you do, Lucky P. I don't need to see. I got me some crime to fight.
And a hammer as Rorschach tests his bonds.
I want to know your name.
Lucky P gets his pliers out.
If you don't tell me, I'm going to start doing what I do by pulling your tongue out of your mouth. And then I'll take my time.
He grabs Rorschach's tongue with them.
Vic.
Vic? You don't look like a Vic. More of a Howard. Just saying. But, Vic, thing is, I don't get the vigilante shit. Like, what's in it for you? On the street, Rawhead accosts some looters.
Hey. Huh?
Understand, if you tell me, I'm not going to kill you. 'Cause, dude, you're dead. So dead. But don't you want somebody to know why you do what you do? I would think that would be important to a Howard like you. Lucky P brandishes a serrated knife. So tell me, or ain't anybody you'll ever know. You'll just be gone and forgotten. Rawhead yanks a TV away from a man. Tell me, and smashes it into him. The crowd stop and stare at him. Why? Rawhead motions to them to bring it on. The blade carves into his nostril. Jesus, fucking ain't Christ. You don't know why, do you, Vic? Tim? The mob approach Rawhead with sticks and stones in hand. You just do, like a fucking animal. A growl emanates from behind Lucky P. The tiger leaps at him. Just as a brick collides with Rawhead's head in the mask. Lucky P is mauled by the tiger. Perhaps repaying Rorschach for releasing it, or perhaps simply doing what tigers do. Rawhead grabs the brick thrower by the throat. Rorschach kicks up, rolling onto his shoulders. As Rawhead is tackled about the waist, and he kicks out at the man he was holding. Rorschach mounts the bed frame, keeping his eyes on the feeding tiger. As Rawhead is clubbed in the back of the head and goes down. After freeing himself, Rorschach leaves the tiger to its meal. The crowd leaves Rawhead beaten and bloodied in the street. And the diner patron leaves Nancy in an alleyway, his razor still out. And he joins the people as they pass by. The two men who accosted Rorschach are drinking in the abandoned Paradise Inferno lounge with their girlfriends.
It's fucking excellent, man. What'd I tell you? The tip-top of the top shelf.
I don't know, Ronnie. There's fucking bodies here, dude. Fucking bodies.
I don't want to be drinking with no bodies.
Relax. Ain't no bodies that could...
Rorschach passes them by on his way out.
You do this?
Some of it. I wouldn't stay here if I were you.
Yeah? Well, look, you creepy bum.
He makes no mention of the wandering tiger as he leaves.
You ain't me.
Rorschach finds Rawhead in the street, blood pooled around his head. He retrieves his mask from the man's corpse. Strange that a man who brought a piece of the jungle home with him forgot how to survive in the jungle himself. Walter walks home alone.
Rorschach's Journal, July 11th, 1982. 5 years ago today, the city showed its true face.
Rorschach perches on a rooftop.
Ironic. Lights out exposed the pretense, grabbed society by the back of the neck and shoved its face in the mirror. Difficult circumstance when own reflection not how you see yourself.
He takes out a set of binoculars and looks at an animal cage on a rooftop a few blocks away, and a man exiting it.
But how you see others. When the lights came on, the damned were quick to return to their routine of subtle stubbornness, shuffling the streets on lead pegs, trying to forget, fearing eye contact, the flash of recognition.
He watches the man enter a stairwell.
You're just like me.
Rorschach vaults off his rooftop and rushes down his own stairwell.
I know what you do in the dark. 5 years ago, the night of my last mistake. The bard made his first.
Nancy stumbles out of her alleyway, naked and covered in scarred words.
Despite having her throat slit, his victim survived.
A man takes off his coat to cover her up as others come over to offer help.
In the dark, acting out in the open, Ronald James Randall got sloppy. Victim identified him. Regular customer at diner she was employed at.
Nancy's blood soaks into the man's coat, and if one wanted to see it there, perhaps it forms a pattern.
He was behind bars for nearly 3 years before he went to trial.
Rorschach cleans bird shit off his coat.
Victim testified. Inept prosecution still botched case.
He watches an apartment from the street.
Ronald James Randall was acquitted by a jury of his peers. Typical. Society refuses to take necessary steps to save itself from itself. I don't. I know what he did in the dark.
The light in the apartment goes on.
And I know where he lives. Victim's whereabouts unknown.
The bard enters his kitchen. He gets a beer out of his fridge and walks to his window.
That victim.
As he takes a drink, Rorschach emerges from the shadows behind him.
Presumably, she left town to be a victim somewhere else.
The bard begins to pull down his window shade as Rorschach approaches him.
She and her scars.
Once the shade is down, he turns in surprise. Rorschach grabs the killer by the throat. He strangles the man as he struggles.
No escaping the naked truth when it's carved across your chest.
Blood splatters the window shade.
You'd served me.
What do you think? Do you see a pattern there? End. I really don't have much to add to an ending like that, except to point out that I'm not 100% certain about that final line of text. If we can get technical for a moment, we are left to interpret Rorschach's writing and fix one of two possible errors. My choice was to recognize the basic application of fact in that the bard was a patron and Nancy would literally serve him food. That's why I chose "you'd served me," by filling in a missing apostrophe. However, if one wished, there is also space for the missing letter E to instead form the line, "You deserve me," which is a somewhat harsher judgment, perhaps on the innocent, perhaps on all mankind, perhaps just on one woman too hopeful for the city she lived in. I do favor the former interpretation, but I wanted to point out the possibility and leave you to your own conclusions. Honestly, I can see how Rorschach himself might believe either one to be more true. Well, there's only one more episode to go, and then my adaptations of Before Watchmen will finally be complete. I will be combining Moloch's 2-issue story with Dollar Bill's one-shot, as both tell their life stories over a brief space, and it may be illustrative to see the journeys of a hero and a villain who both ended up dying because of the superhero world. I am leaving out the Crimson Corsair pirate story which was in the back pages because it is unconnected to this reality as far as I am able to interpret, and was just an excuse to see the cool pirate comics this world produces and give the artists in our world some more work. Someone changed my mind on that and it could always be added later. Until then, I bid you a fond farewell and hope to see you again for our finale, underwhelming though it may be now that all of the main characters' stories are told. But I hope you won't see it that way, as the main message of Watchmen, in my view, has always been that the side characters matter just as much as the marquee names. I mean, that's the only thing every adaptation has to cut out for time that really forms the other half of the original book. That and all the back page articles. Oh right, I considered doing a full reading of Hollis Mason's book Under the Hood, the chapters we have anyway, and perhaps all the back page materials, just so there's some video format in which people can see them, and they don't have to ignore them just because they're more watchers than readers. We can't neglect our own lesser halves either now, can we? Let us all be Rorschachs and not Ozymandiases. Oh, it's late here. I need to get this one done. Maybe don't take me too seriously right now. Anyway, I have fun. I hope you do too. Till next time, take care out there, everybody. And as always, thanks for watching.